Jesus calls his first disciples. Dave, Larry, Micah, Tim talking about the study guide remix. Jesus has moved to Capernaum. He's there now, and he goes out for a morning walk. Seems like a pretty straightforward little section here of calling his first disciples.
Definitely. As I pointed out, it's one of the things that was hard for me is trying not to bring the other gospels in too much. But I point out Luke is the one where we get all the detail and the things we like to know about and we tell in our, lessons in Sunday school. But Matthew's focusing a little more on the actual call and the response of the disciples, how they're immediately drop their nets and they immediately leave their boats and follow Jesus, which is what we sort of talked about when we were talking about Joseph, sort of this immediacy of obedience to God when he calls. And that's where Matthew is definitely focusing in on here. And they get up and they leave everything behind to follow Jesus, which isn't just, it's not like they're just going down to the store. They're literally leaving their careers to switch to following Jesus. And I mean, we don't even get the miraculous story here in Matthew. We just get the fact that Jesus calls them, they leave their nets and follow him. And then again with James and John, the sons of Zebedee, they don't just leave their nets in their boat; they leave their father and everything behind, which is a big deal. In that culture, you don't just abandon your family, especially if you're working in the family business. It's important for you to be there in order for the family to survive. But they understand the call of Jesus and they follow him, and hopefully their family also saw that same importance. But and it seems like it does because their mother also follows Jesus later on, and so there's some element of they're not going against their father's wishes, but yet on the other hand there is a big step for them to take in following Jesus.
Okay.
I have a question for you, Micah. A lot of genealogy in Matthew. However, they do not mention Simon Peter or Andrew's father, but they do mention James and John as Zebedee. Why is that? Were they of lesser importance as family? Was Zebedee more of importance?
There's sort of two reasons that I attribute to when the Bible mentions a person's name versus not. The first one is that it's either someone who is, it's the way they're known. So, Judas, son of Iscariot, Judas Iscariot, that was the way he was known, sort of as a reference in contrast to others. James, because there was more than one James. One was son of Alphaeus, one was son of Zebedee. That's probably more the case here versus the other. Simon doesn't have to because he gets his other name, so we often call him Simon Peter. Other times it's because it's someone in the early church that the church would have known. So if, Simon Peter and Andrew's dad isn't someone known to the church, he may mention him. But if Zebedee's, someone who's out there ministering in the church, doing things, then they would know of him, and so it'd make more sense to reference him. You get this a lot when there's just like random people introduced to the story, and suddenly they name them, and you're like, why'd you name that? Like, I don't even know who he is. And he's like in this one verse in the whole Bible, but it seems like it would be somebody that the reader would know. It's like, oh yeah, he's, one of the deacons in the church in Jerusalem, or, he's someone who serves at the church in Jericho or something, or he's an evangelist who goes about preaching the gospel. So That's my normal perspective of that. If there's a name, it's somebody that either the early church knew, or it's a reference that helps distinguish the other characters in the story.